Hey friends, welcome to the Rotary Club of Georgetown. This is our Friday meeting, as we usually use this time from now until about 12:15 or so for gathering and fellowship. If we were meeting in person, that's what we'd be doing. We'll hear from our club president, George Lorgan, here before too long. But just take this moment. If you're on the stream already, you haven't talked to somebody, another fellow member in our club, if you have their phone number, please reach out to them. Give them a call at this time. Feel free to chat in the YouTube window. And we hope that you are all doing well. We'll get started here before too long, again around 12:15 or so, but just use this time from now until then for fellowship. We'll check back in here in a little bit. Thank you for being here. This is a Rotary Club of Georgetown, Texas. Hey, good morning, friends. Rob Hipp here, Rotary Club of Georgetown. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is our normal time for fellowship at the current moment. If you have an opportunity to call a fellow Rotarian and check up on them, if you have their number, call them, check up on them. We'll hear from our club president, George Lorigan, here in just a few moments. We will start the meeting around 12:15. This is normally the time of fellowship, so just wanted to say hello to everybody. Hope you are doing okay today and very excited to have you here with our program. We'll check back in here in a few minutes. Again, thanks for being here, the Rotary Club of Georgetown.
welcome all those who are joining us on YouTube Live. This is still I've got about 10 more minutes before our meeting gets started, but it's an opportunity for you to connect with each other. You can do that through chatting right there on YouTube Live, or you can also pick up your phone and call your friends. Call those Rotarians that you haven't talked to in a week or so and just catch up on what they've been doing in their life and how they're dealing with what's going on and all the changes that are starting to come up and are we ready for that and what's really happening. So there's a lot of questions and I don't think anyone knows for certain what's going on, but if we work together and look out for each other, we're going to do real well through all this process. So thank you so much. We'll be back in about 10 minutes and to start the official meeting off at 12:15. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, George. Welcome, everyone, to the Rotary Club of Georgetown, Texas. I am George Lorigan. I'm honored to serve as president this year during these troubling times, and just thankful for the opportunity to be a part of this fantastic group of people who are making a fantastic and amazing difference in the city of Georgetown and around the world. Well, to open the meeting, we'll go on to Will Broughton. Will, are you on? I did not see you on there, but you may be. So let's go ahead and bow our heads for just a moment and thank the Lord for the amazing things that he has done in our lives. We thank you for being here with us. We thank you for the challenges that are before each one of us. We thank you that we are working together to resolve the issues that are before us. We thank you for the blessings that we have. We thank you in every way for so many things that we have that are little things, to be able to go out on the golf course, to be able to connect with people, even if it's only by video. We thank you that we are being able to open up our society and interact on more basis than we had in the past. And we pray that people will continue to stay safe and not be suffering from this horrible disease. For it's in your name we pray. Amen. Barry Bowden, I know you're on. Go ahead and lead us in the pledge.
Yeah. Please take a look at the flag and then join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Barry. Gary Brown.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're having a wonderful day now that we're starting to open up the country and see different things out there. Traffic was exponentially higher on Williams Drive today, so I guess that's a sign that things are out there. So today, remember birthdays: Vicki Mooney, May 3rd, Ray Barron, May 5th. Spouse birthdays: Dan Gaddis's wife, Shanna, on May 3rd. Kimmy, George Worrigan's wife, on May 4th. Anniversaries: Carol and Rob Hardy, 33 years on May 2nd. Congratulations. Fred and Kathy Sellers, 51 years on May 3rd. That's awesome. Club anniversaries: O.L. Davis, 24 years on May 3rd. Ron Swain, 19 years on May 4th. And David Wolf, 20 years on May 5th. And that's all for today. Salute.
Salute. I'd like to welcome all guests and visiting Rotarians. Thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you in person next time you get to join us. Dennis, what do you have?
Yeah, I'll just do a quick editorial on what I did yesterday. I did a makeup. I zoomed into my old club in Georgia and introduced myself as the Sergeant at Arms, and I did a pin check. Now, my old club in Georgia, they were very good. There were most months or most weekly meetings, there was 100% pins being worn. So I checked in on them yesterday, and by gosh, most of them were being worn. So it's holding forth at the other end of the world.
Excellent. So your legacy is carrying on, and you're actually establishing one here. So we appreciate that very much. George Oliver, what do we have going on today?
He's muted.
George, you got yourself muted still. George, I need you to unmute yourself. There you go.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. With us today is Erin Hillary. Erin has been proposed for membership. Her proposal was accepted by the board. She has previous Rotary exposure. Years ago, she was an exchange student through a Rotary program, and she spent some time in Australia as a result, an experience which she valued highly and still remembers very fondly. And we're pleased that she is with us here today. And Aaron, it is my great pleasure on behalf of the Board of Directors and members of the Rotary Club of Georgetown, Texas, to welcome you as a member. Rotarians believe that worldwide fellowship and international peace can be achieved when professional men and women are united under the banner of service. Not everyone is meant to be a Rotarian. We select individuals that are committed to service and will be active participants in our projects and supporters of our foundation. You've been selected for membership because your fellow Rotarians are confident that you not only exhibit the characteristics that will allow you to impart the message of Rotary, but also that our principles and standards are safe in your keeping. You will be a representative of Rotary in all phases of your professional and personal life. And because of that, our community will know and judge Rotary by how you embody its ideals in your character and service. Rotary is not a political organization, but Rotarians are vitally concerned with everything pertaining to good citizenship. Rotary is not a charitable organization, but our activities throughout our community and the world exemplify our responsibility to help others. Rotary is not a religious organization, but our beliefs are built on eternal principles that have been the moral compass of people throughout the ages. This day may mark the beginning of many years of devoted service and fellowship, or it may not. Above all else, what Rotary gives to you and what you give Rotary is entirely your choice. You will have opportunities to serve on a committee in one of our areas of service and to attend numerous functions related to Rotary activities. What you do with those opportunities is up to you. We encourage you to be more than just a member of a Rotary Club. Instead, we encourage you to choose to be a Rotarian. Aaron Hillary, I am pleased to present with you, or will present to you, a Rotary pin, a name badge, and a packet of information about Rotary. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Aaron Hillary to membership in the Rotary Club of Georgetown, Texas.
Thank you very much, George. Thank you, everyone.
Would you like to say a couple of words, Aaron?
No, just thank you. Looking forward to when this virus finally lets us get back to some semblance of normalcy, so I can get started in doing some of the exciting things that the Rotary Club does to help out the community.
Welcome to our club, and we're pleased to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. But don't mute yourself yet, because there's something special going on today for you. I think I remember you mentioning earlier. So
I don't know. At this point, is it still special, or
it is still very special. Yeah.
It is my birthday today, so there we go.
So I think it's time for everyone to unmute that can and wish her a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Aaron.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Well,
You want to sing, Ron? Will you lead us? I would mess it up.
We're
So
not a singing club, I understand.
yes, and then it would be a disaster if I were leading it, so I won't even try.
Happy
that.
birthday.
Happy birthday!
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're so excited to have you. All right, Stephen, Dr. Benold.
We had the unfortunate thing happen this week that we've been dreading happening, and it happened. We had a cluster of cases in a nursing home. There were 45 cases in one nursing home. 30 of those were the residents, and 15 were the staff. Excuse me, were staff members. And just a couple of days ago, at the Wesleyan Skilled Nursing and Rehab, which is the old Estrella Oaks nursing home, one of the staff members tested positive, and they are in the process right now of testing everyone in the facility. But Rob had noted that in Williamson County, we've had 4 deaths in the last 4 days. And unfortunately, our deaths here in Williamson County will jump, because when COVID gets into a nursing home, the results are disastrous. I wanted to talk a little bit about Texas. In Texas, it looks like we're plateauing. The number of new cases for the last 3 weeks has been very steady, right at about 880 new cases a day. The trouble with going by new cases is, of course, if you test twice as much, you get more cases. And so that doesn't necessarily mean there actually are more or less new cases. It depends on how many people you test. And so I looked at fatalities, because fatalities are not dependent on testing. It's dependent upon people who have actually been proven to be COVID positive and have died. And our fatalities have also plateaued right at about 30 fatalities a day. So I think it's pretty clear that the COVID pandemic in Texas is plateauing. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we will see it begin to decline. And that's my report for this week.
Thank you very much. That's excellent. That's really actually encouraging news. Ron Swain, this is the email that you didn't get to see, that I was copied on also. Faith in Action, Michelle there at Faith in Action says that they do have a need now. I know you've been in great contact with them and working what they do. And if you look down in that little insert picture there, the last line item, it talks about online grocery orders and care calls. The need they have is for what's called care calls. Care calls fill the need for seniors' social connection, for them to be able to connect to someone. And it's a very simple call. It's like what we're doing right now. This is like a care call. It's a video chat call or a phone call, twice a week commitment. Anyone who's able to do that, and Michelle is looking for as many volunteers as possible. You can either call her or email. Her email is on there, and I'll leave that on the screen. One of the nice things about doing a business this way is you probably can find a pen or pencil to write down Michelle Wilkerson, faithinactiongt.org, and let her know that you're interested in helping. We also, very similar to what George Oliver organized among our club members, reaching out and calling and talking to each other, making sure that no one is left behind.
Right, George, thanks so much. And good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. The COVID-19 task force that George appointed a few weeks back has been working. And last week we met after receiving 3 mini grant applications and recommended those applications to be approved. One to the Caring Place for $5,000, one to the YMCA that is providing childcare for essential workers and first responders while schools are closed, and then Any Baby Can, an organization that provides food and other essential supplies to first-time low-income moms in Georgetown and beyond. But specifically, our grant is for Georgetown, where there are 30 families being served, and the request was for 50 gift cards. So thank you to our board, thank you to the foundation, and thank you to the grants committee, and especially thanks to Elizabeth McFarland and Henry Hugh, who worked with me along with Chris Cash, chair of our grants committee, to review these applications. Thank you all so much. The other request, as you see at the Caring Place, is ongoing. So if you are inclined to make a personal donation, the items that are listed there, you can provide those, or you can make a financial contribution to the Caring Place. And their information is on screen as well. The P.O. Box, their P.O. Box 1215, Georgetown, Texas. The fire department earlier requested PPE equipment, and I've confirmed with them this week that they are still receiving those items. If anyone wants to make donations, there is a box, I understand, on the area of the Public Safety Center on DB Wood Road, where those items can be deposited or delivered. If you have questions, there's a phone number, or you can call the fire department directly with inquiries. The other, I think, is a request. The fire department, and then is Chris. I didn't see Chris Cash on the phone on the call this afternoon.
You're welcome to talk about this. Chris is definitely in need of help in this area.
Right.
Go ahead, Ron.
Yes, volunteers are needed to pick up the food that's being provided for the youngsters who are being cared for at the Boys and Girls Club. Again, the Boys and Girls Club is providing child care for essential workers here in Georgetown and Williamson County. And the contact information for Chris is posted on the screen. And I think the final information announcement that we have is from Jim Duzier, who's on the advisory board of the Salvation Army, and they are requesting food donations. They can be delivered either to Jim's resident or Laura Spradlin, both of whom are in Sun City, or the Salvation Army office on South Austin Avenue. And again, the generosity of our community is just outstanding. This week, I had an opportunity to talk with Hugh Brown, the CEO at St. David's Georgetown, and he said that they were just overwhelmed with the generosity for the healthcare workers at the facility there, even though we haven't had the onslaught of cases that some other areas have had, but they still are very appreciative of what's being done in our city. I believe that's all, George. Thank you.
Ron, thank you so much. And thank you very much for you stepping up and the leadership you provided in this area. And thank you to your committee that you put together, your task force. That's been tremendous in the leadership you provided in that area and our ability to make a difference in our community. And we're very excited that you've stepped up to do that. Thank you very much. Many of y'all are probably aware that we have donated on a fairly regular basis to Libraries of Love. Libraries of Love is a nonprofit mission work done by Trudy Marshall down in Uganda, in Africa. That's a picture of one of the libraries actually there, and a couple of the workers there helping out. Uganda, just a very short, with the COVID virus, went into a lockdown, and their lockdown is a little different than ours. It's virtually a total lockdown. If you're caught driving a vehicle, you're taken out and beaten. If you need to get to the hospital, you have to walk. And women have died just trying to walk to the hospital to have a baby. So when we think of the difficulty we're going through, it's nothing like the difficulty they're going through. It doesn't mean that we should, but understand that everyone is dealing with this in the different situations that they're involved in, and they need our prayers also. So that's what she's really asking for, is prayers. She's not asking for more money. We support her. She appreciates that immensely. She's just asking for prayers for the people of Uganda and the suffering that they're experiencing as a result of this COVID-19 pandemic. A couple quick things on our calendar. As we move along right here, we'll have another Zoom meeting today at 4 to 5. Everyone got an email from the district about that, and I think I remember to attach it to the club update. Although I did learn from someone that apparently I completely forgot to attach the trumpet that Barbara has done such an outstanding job on, so I will send another email out this afternoon with the trumpet. Barbara, I apologize. You do such a fantastic job putting that together. I certainly don't want people not to have access to the great information and the great job you're doing. We will have another club meeting next week. Nathan has got a speaker and everything all arranged. And so we'll have a great meeting next week. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Ken White. I've gotten to know Ken a little bit over the last few years. He was in the National Guard just like I was, although he was served mostly later than I did. He retired recently from the National Guard, been in our club for, I think, about 3 years now, but he retired from the National Guard, has become more active now with the club. and he has a nonprofit that he started that he's going to be talking about. He's not asking for money or volunteers. He just wants people to understand how it works and some of the value that you can see there. But some of the other things that he's involved in, you've probably heard of the and I never get the name right, but it's the nonprofit organization that helps nonprofits in the area of excellence, helping them to do better at what they do. Well, he's one of the advisors and counselors on that, and does a fantastic job. He has helped with Heroes Night Out and their board of directors, and working with them and multitude of other organizations. He's also involved actively with a senior university here in Georgetown. So he may have retired and may not be actually getting paid to do things, but he's certainly very, very active in our community. So without any further ado, I'm going to stop my sharing and let Ken White give his presentation.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And thanks for letting me share a topic that I am very passionate about. It's very meaningful to me, as you will see. If I can, I hope this is working. Let's see. It doing anything yet?
It'll be there. It will. Sometimes you got to click it a second time. There you go. It came up.
All right, George, I can see the little things on the other side too, so I'm good to go. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I know we have 20 minutes or probably less, so I'm going to go through these slides, not delay. This is actually part of a much larger presentation that I will be giving to Rock Springs to a large group of medical professionals, probably mostly counselors. And so I've taken chunks of that larger presentation out. Unfortunately, because of our time constraints, there's some other things I want to touch on in here. So I'm going to probably spin through some of this relatively quickly and not get into much detail. But as George said, absolutely 30 years in the Army, Texas Army National Guard, active duty, retired in November. But ironically enough, this month is my 1-year anniversary, the executive director for Senior University, even though I retired from the Army in November. So it's been great experience with Senior University. I'm also, I don't consider myself a musician, but I play some musical instruments. I have been involved in doing art since I could walk, basically. And so I have those experiences as well. However, I'm going to do something that they tell you never to do when you're speaking in public, and that is to discredit my qualification as a speaker. I am not a doctor, not a medical professional, and I don't do any counseling officially for veterans. If someone asks for help, of course, that's a different type of thing. But I have been watching the toll that PTSD has been taking on our soldiers and their families over the last 14 plus years, for me anyway, and watching to see what that's done to these soldiers and families. And so it's become really important to me. And after a friend and colleague of mine committed suicide about 3 years ago, I realized that I have to at least make an attempt to do something, and stood up a nonprofit organization to do just that. This presentation is not about that organization. It's really about educating you on what art therapy, expressive arts specifically, what expressive arts is and how it kind of works and how it can help veterans and really anybody that suffered a trauma. I've been working with veterans now, doing expressive arts for the last 2 years. And although I'm not a medical professional, someone on my board of directors is an expressive arts therapist and medical, very involved in counseling and that sort of thing. And so we have a very good program where we can reach out to veterans and that sort of thing. So what is PTSD? You can see the definition up there, which is a pretty good definition from the American Psychiatric Association. And it kind of is good to frame the context of the rest of this presentation, although I really don't like the term psychiatric disorder, and I would venture a guess that a lot of veterans don't particularly care for that terminology either. But PTSD really means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, depending on whether you're a spouse, whether you're a veteran, whether you are a business owner looking to hire folks. We all come with our own preconceived notions of what PTSD is. If you ask a veteran if they'd be comfortable going to lunch at the Blue Harvest Cafe and having their back towards the open room, I would venture a guess that many of them would be very uncomfortable if they sat through an hour of eating that way. There's different reactions from veterans with varying degrees of their PTSD. And so I'm curious from y'all, if you'll take a second, those of you that can type, as I'm on Zoom, just as you would go through this and you're listening to me, just type in what you think are some behaviors of veterans with PTSD. So there are a lot of different, I'm going to cover several categories here, and I'm going to bold some things. I'm not going to go into detail on every single item here because we don't have the time. But, intrusive memories is definitely a behavior that you see with veterans with PTSD, distressed memories, reliving the traumatic event. Physical reactions is huge. I'll tell you a very quick story. I don't consider myself as someone who has PTSD. As an officer in the military, when I was in Iraq, I had it easy. Sat in a tactical operations center. When I went outside the wire, it was by my choice. It's very controlled, protected, that sort of thing. So I never really felt like I had any symptoms of PTSD. I was visiting my oldest daughter, who was a college athlete, about 2 years ago, maybe a year ago. And we were at a concert and we had to leave the concert early. And long story short, they were doing fireworks as we were walking out. So we paused by a building to watch the fireworks. And the fireworks malfunctioned and they actually started shooting at us. And they were literally going over our heads about 4 or 5 feet and hitting the wall behind us. And I looked at my daughter and we decided to hightail it away from that area. And so we ran to the end of the parking lot, to get closer to our car. And I had no issues with that at all. We joked about it. We sat there and watched the rest of the slideshows. But in an instant, as we turned to go to the car, this overwhelming feeling came over me. I found myself short of breath and really just emotional over, I really don't even know. All these things came back to me. And so that was a very physical reaction to something that I totally, and my daughter was totally not expecting. And, it took me a few minutes to recompose myself, looked at my daughter and, said, "Hey, I'm good to go. Let's go." And as we walked off, I kind of looked at her and said, that's kind of what happens when you have a dad who's been in combat. So that's an example of a very physical reaction. Avoidance, obviously the big thing there is avoiding thinking or talking about the traumatic event. And then avoiding people or activities. A lot of folks with PTSD don't like to go out in large public areas. They don't feel comfortable in group settings or even in smaller settings. And so there's that avoidance. Negative changes in thinking and mood are some more characteristics. That hopeless feeling about your future, tied with the one on the bottom there, where you're feeling emotionally numb, that could lead to veterans having suicidal ideation. Difficulty in maintaining close relationships has an effect on not just the veteran, but now you're talking about potentially the family as well. And then changes in physical and emotional reactions, being easily startled or frightened. I remember a time about 6 months after returning from Iraq, I was at a large staff meeting on Camp Mabry, about a 12-foot long conference table. And a little unbeknownst to all of us in the meeting, a good handful of us had just returned from Iraq. And unbeknownst to us, they were doing roofing work up on the roof. And they had dropped I would assume it was a large pallet of roofing tiles. And before I even knew what happened, several of us just reacted out of instinct and found ourselves peering over the conference table from our knees. And so it just kind of caused that startled or frightened reaction automatically. And of course, you get into other things with physical and emotional reactions, talking about self-destructive behavior, trouble sleeping, trouble concentrating, and those sorts of things you can see there. So that kind of gives you a pretty good idea of what PTSD is like and a lot of those symptoms are. And so the what if. So what if we as a community could enhance the current approach to helping individuals with traumatic stress? And what if we could introduce veterans to approaches that help them self-regulate and assist them in their body's response to traumatic experiences in a much safer manner? And then what if we could help individuals learn and practice these skills and teach them the skills, those types of skills? And finally, what if we could help them use imagination and creativity to transform those traumatic memories into physical and emotional actions that are positive? That, in a nutshell, is really kind of what expressive arts does. It takes the idea of counseling and psychotherapy along with expressive arts. And you know, it's not a one or the other. And I'm not a medical person, but I will tell you, I'm not advocating that it's only expressive arts. If some, you know, instead of cognitive therapy, talk therapy, that sort of thing, the research has found that the two of those approaches together is much stronger and much more effective than just one or the other. And so expressive arts is also using artistic experience to heal and get healthier and to grow and develop as a person. And the neat thing about it is you don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be a musician. You don't have to be a yoga expert. You don't have to be any of that to benefit from expressive arts. Oops. And finally, expressive arts uses imagery, symbology, storytelling, all those different aspects, and we'll touch on a little bit of those here in a minute, as components for healing. So this is the 8 reasons to include why we should include expressive arts in trauma therapy in that experience. And I'm not going to go into detail on all 8 because we're running short of time. This was developed by Dr. Kathy Malchiati, who I believe, my personal opinion is, wrote a great book, wrote the Bible on self-help or artistic healing and that sort of thing. But this is what she calls out as 8 reasons why you should include expressive arts as part of trauma therapy. I can't go into detail on all 8 of those in this particular venue because of time, and there's some other things I want to touch on. But if you have questions about any of these later, and you'll kind of see how these 8 themes play out as well. And so the other thing that's interesting is she's kind of categorized these into 4 groups in terms of types of expressive arts. You've got storytelling, sound, movement, and silence. And so I think the examples below are really self-explanatory. We don't really need to talk about what playing instruments does or yoga and all that sort of thing, because they correlate with the topic on the top there, whether it's movement or sound or whatnot. So when you're doing these activities, they are touching a core response for someone with trauma. But what's really beneficial is when you can combine 2 or more of these activities at the same time, you're really making a bigger impact and a bigger chance to make a difference and help that person heal. So for example, visual art is a storytelling model. If you combine that, believe it or not, and you can, with yoga, and then combine it with doing art, you've now combined 3 of those different categories, those broad categories together. And so you're really making a stronger impact because now you're cutting across 3 instead of just 1. Similarly, if you're doing lyrics, which is touching on the storytelling aspect, and the veteran is creating the lyrics, and maybe the veteran's singing or someone else is singing, but it's all still part of that same process. Again, another example where you're touching on 2 different areas, 2 different themes. So you can see how the interaction of 2 or more, how they interact and how effective that could be. So why use expressive arts? And more specifically, why use it with veterans? You know, for a long time, there was no research available. No one was doing research. Even though expressive arts has been around for a long time, there really hadn't been a lot of research on it until recently. Much like the Right On Center does the equine therapy, is just now getting to the forefront of getting the research. So is expressive arts. However, you know, there's been research, and you can look on the first bullet back from 2006 when research was done. They did see that focused art therapy strategies for combat and veterans of the military was beneficial. And then more recently at the Intrepid Center at Fort Sam, you know, they've got an amazing expressive arts program down there, and they've been capturing the metrics and the data. And so there's some good, strong data for the benefits out of the Intrepid Center as well. And then also, you know, just the whole aspect of nonverbal communications. There's pockets of veterans doing expressive arts, whether it's art, music, or whatnot, in a variety of different areas and venues. And so it is there and it is working. Ironically enough, the picture you see to the left there was from a Vietnam veteran who was a junior college, community college professor at my hometown back in Illinois. And before I even realized it, I didn't realize this until some 30 years later, but here's a guy who was a flamethrower in Vietnam, and he was doing his own art therapy. He had the ability, because he was an art teacher, to walk into his art studio when he was reliving some of that trauma and could do his own art therapy himself. So at the end of the day, what's the goal for all of this? I, Ken White, personally think the goal is very simple. It's trying, what can we do to improve the quality of life, not only just for our veterans, but for the veterans and the family members of those veterans. And so for me, that's what expressive arts is really all about, and treatment per se for PTSD should really focus on, is improving the quality of life. So to look at that, I just want to touch real quickly on resilience. So you see the definition up there. It's a pretty good definition. I came across that in some research and I really liked it. I think it's a good definition for resilience. But some of those same researchers asked, why are some people more resilient than others? Why do they just seemed to be more resilient than others. And they came across three kind of common threads that they referred to as protective factors. And they found that some people are more resilient. The ones that were more resilient tended to have supportive family and caregivers. They had a strong ability to self-regulate, and they just had a personal initiative or just a personal temperament to just bounce back when things were going bad. And so how do you build that resilience? How do you ensure that, you know, you can take a veteran, work with them, and maybe create resiliency in somebody? And so some more research in 2015 showed kind of these 5 critical factors. And the importance to doing that is people have to feel loved and accepted, the efficacy and problem solving and decision making, recognizing your own strengths, feeling comfortable around peers and other adults, and really believing that one can just make a difference are all really strong critical factors that influence someone's resilience. So you've got the ingredients here to help with PTSD or help with trauma. Where is there a need? From when I looked at this, there's a need really, as you can see, in the veteran community here in Williamson County, Georgetown, local counties surrounding, but it's really, the need is to get ahead of mental health issues before they get overwhelming to the individual and the family member. And that's what expressive arts is good at doing. The other thing is it helps because right now there's an insufficient capacity for mental health workforce to help with these service members returning home. And I didn't realize this until I talked to the counselor that I work very closely with, but she is reimbursed through TRICARE. And if the reimbursement rate for that is just unbelievably horrible. I was shocked when she told me how that reimbursement varies and differs. And so there's a potential for an impact there. You know, when you talk about people having to put food on the tables and helping other folks out. And most importantly, in the veteran community, what I've really learned over the last several years working for many nonprofits that focus on veterans, Right on Center, Make a Vet Sweat, and different organizations of that nature, is it's not one size fits all. So just because I enroll in a program at Right on Center to do equine therapy, that may not respond to me. Music may not respond to me. Weightlifting. There's an organization that gives free gym memberships. That works for a lot of folks. It may not work for everyone. It's not one size fits all. And so having an expressive arts, a community expressive arts program can just offer something more for the veterans that's not currently there. And then next, I would tell you that there is a big potential to help just within the Texas Army National Guard itself. Texas is the largest Guard state, in the entire country. And right now, and this data right here is about 2 years old, not quite 2 years old, but there's about approximately 700 soldiers and airmen who are currently being treated by counselors. That's a lot of soldiers and airmen. And I know those counselors are doing what they can to help support those. But if we had community-based programs in place, and we had programs where we could reach out, we could go to the base, and we could do these programs to help them, we would just be magnifying the effect and the impact of how we could support them. And by the way, the Texas Army National Guard has only 7 counselors, and those 7 counselors have to support soldiers from across the entire state of Texas. Counseling services, but they don't provide expressive arts programs per se. They'll either do training to help you recognize the signs of suicide ideation, or training in some other aspect, but not directly related to expressive arts programs. It can make a direct impact for a veteran. And then last, for the Guard, it adds another level of treatment not provided through state family programs, which is an organization within most Guard states. I do know that last year, right before I left, funding for state family programs at the federal level was cut significantly. And so that funding, really, the cutting of that funding has a potential to really decrease the opportunities to help soldiers with trauma. And then you can see the little chart on the right side there. According to the VA, there's about 50,000 veterans within Williamson County. And I'm going to move on to the next slide to talk through these barriers very briefly. They don't want to, soldiers typically aren't comfortable seeking treatment, or they're concerned about privacy issues, they're concerned about their career, different things of that nature are really act as barriers on why these soldiers aren't going to go for normal, trauma treatment. And so trauma as a treatment option has some benefits. So it reduces the stigma because it's creating opportunities for soldiers to come in, maybe in a community environment where they don't have to go in on their base. So it removes those types of barriers of shame where they're afraid a friend or their boss might see them. And it really is taking proactive measures. If you can not only bring a soldier and do expressive arts, but now you can bring soldiers and their entire families together to do expressive arts and come away with a really cool art project that they can hang on their wall and talk about. That's an amazing response. And so those are really good treatment options. And by having a counselor there, you don't have to beat them over the head with counseling, but you can offer treatment plans or actions that they can do if they're struggling in any particular area. And finally, I talked to Hugh Brown at St. David's a while back about this program. There are great programs that exist. Fort Hood resiliency programs, St. David's Hospital, Rock Springs, and others have great programs that will help veterans and others with trauma. The problem kind of that Hugh Brown highlighted was that his hospital does an amazing job at helping people that come into the hospital with these trauma situations and can help them cope emotionally. But they're fixing the problem at the time. And as Hugh Brown said, there's nothing after that for these soldiers to go to. And so if we had the ability to create a community-based program that would offer ongoing help and support, then maybe there'd be an opportunity where hospitals like St. David's and Rock Springs and others could, at no cost, refer these veterans to these programs that they could participate in. And finally, when you look at the programs, I'm probably running very close to my time, this is a chart that shows who could be reached and different possibilities. These are programs that I have created within my nonprofit, but it's an illustration of what can be done. So who could we reach through expressive arts in our little town of Georgetown, our amazing town here? We can reach active duty soldiers at Fort Hood. There's plenty that live here in the community, plenty that would travel to Georgetown for these programs. We'd reach veterans within Williamson County and surrounding counties, female veterans and service members, potentially who would be affected by sexual trauma, could participate and get help. And then spouses and children of service members who are affected by their service member who has PTSD. And so very quickly, some of the ways we've done that are shown on the right-hand side there. The little graphic shows a concept of basically of who the outreach. The program is Art is Fun. and the graphics show you, for example, who the different programs affect. And you can see some of those programs cross over the bounds, and they can reach the veteran all the way up to couples and families. And some of the programs, when you get down to the bottom and you look at storytelling, for example, are really just focused on the veteran. We're really just trying to get the veteran story and to help that veteran with his trauma on a very personal level, and that sort of thing. So these are just examples of some programs that we've already done. There are programs that Rock Spring does amazing things with mask making, and they've got a really strong program. I'm quite sure there's other organizations out there as well. So that's how the community can make an impact. And at that, I think I might be a little over, George. I apologize. But that's pretty much all I got. I'll wrap it up with a great quote from Brene Brown, and open to any questions or comments. Thanks for your attention.
Ken, thank you very, very much. We'll go ahead and finish our meeting off, and then anyone wants to stick around and ask questions, hopefully you'll stick around for that. And I thank you so much for that fantastic presentation. So anyone have any announcements for the good of Rotary?
I do, George.
Yes, Ron.
This week I learned that two of our Rotarians who were leaders in our club over a long period of time passed away this week. Dr. O.L. Davis, who was recognized earlier during the milestones with 24 years. O.L. and his wife, Joan, had moved to the Dallas area to live with their son, I believe. And Judy Shanklin, who was a former president of our club, passed away this week. So we encourage all of our members to remember those two Rotarians in our thoughts and prayers.
Thank you very much, Ron. Very much appreciate that. And we'll go ahead and get out any more information that we have concerning any type of services, even though that will be a little different than normal services during this time. Does anyone else have any announcements for the good of Rotary? Carol Hardy says she has masks available for anyone who needs one or two. So let her know she can deliver them. Carol, I want to make sure we hold on to some of those, because when we do start meeting again, that may be one of the requirements when we meet again as a club, that everybody be wearing a mask. So we want to make sure that we will have that ability to do that when we start meeting again. That kind of question for Ron. Have you heard anything from the church as to if, when that might be open again?
No, we don't have a timeline yet. Our administrative council met last evening, and one of the challenges put before the group, our core team, is to come up with a set of criteria that can be used to determine when we would reopen our campus.
Excellent. I'm certain that y'all were the first church in the area to actually close, and I know that you take all of this, your church takes all of this very, very seriously. So we look forward to the plans that they have in that area.
Yes, the focus of our health and safety is focusing on children and vulnerable persons. So we want to maintain health and safety for as many people as we can.
Excellent. Thank you very much. One of the other things that is working to reopen again this month is actually doing ramp builds. A couple of things that'll, obviously that is a very important project, but with it comes some challenges. One of the things that will occur during those ramp builds is that everyone will be required to wear masks. And it may not be that they feel themselves in need of a mask, but they're protecting other people from themselves. So, if you are looking at doing, joining us in doing more ramp builds later in the month, want to make sure that you have a mask, because everyone will be required to wear a mask there, and there will be other guidelines that'll come forth as we work with the Texas Ramp Project to make sure that all those things are taken care of properly and that we are taking care of each other. Any other announcements? Don't see any announcements on the YouTube Live. So I think that we're ready to move forward. Let's go ahead and close our meeting out with a 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Adjourn.
That'll do it for today's Rotary Club meeting. Again, the Rotary Club of Georgetown. Appreciate you joining us today, friends, and look forward to seeing you again next week right here back on YouTube. Have a wonderful and blessed evening. We will see you next week. Have a great weekend, everybody, and a wonderful day ahead.